We know what you've come for, and now we're going to give it to you. You're listening to the No Such Thing podcast.
Hi, Cathy. Thanks for coming on the show.
My pleasure. Good to be here.
So, we already did this, and something happened with the audio, and we have to do it all again. But this will be a more streamlined version, which is a good thing.
Right, because I forgot an important detail after we hung up. I was like, oh, I forgot to tell him that. So, it is a blessing.
Okay, so I forgot all of the stuff that we talked about at the very start before your encounter, but why don't you get into the history of the location that this all happened in and what that location is?
Okay. Yeah, it does have a deep history of a lot of energy that could have something to do with why cryptids seem to gravitate towards this area.
And what area is it? Sorry?
It's White Bluff, Tennessee, which is in Dickson County, about 30 miles west of Nashville, which is in Middle Tennessee. And there's no mountains in Middle Tennessee. It's mostly a hilly area, lots of hills, beautiful rolling hills. Okay. And White Bluff was settled back in 1806 and actually grew out of a Civil War era Union Army encampment. Union Army, ironically. And this happened 40 years ago, my encounter, and I grew up in the town right next to it, about 6 miles away. Both very, very small town. Like 2,000 people lived there when this happened in the 80s, and only 3,600 live there now. So very, very small town. And yet 3 major cryptids nearby. And it's not that far from Adams, Tennessee, which is where the Bill Witch, one of the most famous ghost stories, resides, about an hour away from there. Also, it is next to Burns, Tennessee, which is where back in the 1860s, there was a traveling circus train wreck. So some people speculate that these cryptids could have something to do with animals that may have escaped the train wreck. It's actually a train that wrecked that was holding circus animals.
Oh, so they all got out.
Not all of them. Some stories say they were caught except for these 2 wolf boys. Some people say they didn't catch all animals, and that there are black panthers still that roam today that they think that some of those cats may have mated with some of our local big cats here, and that we have black panthers, not very many, but people still see them today.
Yeah, I've heard they're spotted in Florida sometimes.
Oh, yeah, I've heard that too. So there's lots of energy on these grounds, hallowed grounds. I don't know if it has to do with, there's a lot of Civil War battles nearby, especially in my town. So lots of energy. And one of the cryptids that, besides my encounter, there are 2 others. One is called the White Screamer. And the local pizza parlor in White Bluff has a pizza named the White Screamer that has white cheese and white sauce and named after this cryptid. It's that famous. And actually on YouTube, there's several documentaries dedicated to the White Screamer. And there's several books written about it too. And there's so many different descriptions of the White Screamer. I refer to it as either shape-shifting or very ambiguous, because there's many different descriptions. I wonder if it's either a different creature or a shapeshifter. And I'm not sure if I believe in shapeshifters, but there are definitely different descriptions. Some people think it could be a La Llorona, which is Latino, one of the most famous Latino ghost stories of a screaming woman. Very, very famous ghost story of Latino folklore. And other people think that it could be an exotic animal that escaped that traveling circus. And then some people think it's an unearthly apparition that wanders aimlessly. And some people say it's a banshee that emits horrible cries. Some people said it's a solid white Bigfoot. And then other people say it's, when it appears, it's a misty form and it screams like a woman in great distress. And that if you can only listen for a few seconds or you'll go insane.
Well, that's like the Irish. That's like the Irish banshee. If you hear it, somebody in your family will die, and if you see it, you'll die.
Oh, yeah. It's a bad omen.
So it must be connected somehow, probably from Irish folklore. You know, it's somehow traveled.
That's interesting. A lot of paranormal sightings like that are often a bad omen to something bad happening. Like the Jersey Devil, isn't it supposed to be?
Yeah, one of my guests talked about the Jersey Devil. He was from New Jersey. He was on Finding Bigfoot, and he had an encounter in the Pine Barrens in New Jersey. This thing was pretty intimidating. Yeah.
Wow.
Go on with the history. But I want to talk about your RV life because we covered that in the first attempt, and I don't want to miss over that.
So, some witnesses say if they go back to the spot where they saw this misty form, the grass would be charred. And so the best story of the White Screamer that is documented not just on many different stories on YouTube, but there's lots of books written about it. And the foundation of the house still exists today, and the graves of the family. But in the early 1920s, a man and his wife, who had 7 kids, lived in a hollow, and every evening they would hear this banshee screaming, and it really upset the children. And night after night they would hear it until finally the husband could stand it no more and went in the woods to stop it, and took his gun. And he couldn't find it, so he headed home, and on the way home heard more screaming in the direction of his house and took off running and found out it wasn't the screaming of the White Screamer, it was actually his family members. And when he got there, it was too late. His family members were in pieces.
Oh, my God.
And the house and the graves are still there in the hollow today. So I think, it is plausible that the man could have done this to himself and blamed it on the White Screamer, but it is one of the most consistent stories since the 1920s that never seems to vary. It's very, very consistent and never seems to waver. So that one is really gets to my heart with 7 children. That one bothers me.
Stuff about children bothers me, and that's what I love about country folk. They seem to hold on to this. Like people in the city seem to have lost their roots. I hate the city, and I love coming out to the country. I don't really live in the country, but I live in the country's very accessible to me, as it was back in Ireland where I lived. I'm on the edge of the country, and it's in central it's in the central Massachusetts, and we have a lot of acreage of wilderness around me. So it's a perfect kind of a spot. We're like 35 miles outside of Boston, but far enough away so you don't have to suffer the city, because I hate the damn city.
Right. Good deal. I've never been that in that area though. That sounds great. Now, are you close to that where your guest saw the Bigfoot in the neighborhood? Are you close to that area?
Like 40 minutes away.
Oh, wow.
I'm going out with him tomorrow, actually, to investigate a spot. And we're actually meeting the hunter that him and his son were in I think his son was in a tree stand and he was on the ground, but they were bluff charged by something. He didn't see its upper body, but he saw this guy's, blue collar guy, no BS out of him. And him and his son were in this area in Winchendon, and this thing came charging out of the woods at them. And he said he saw a bipedal creature with hairy legs, and it was like a freight train coming at them, and his son won't go hunting anymore. Yeah. So we're meeting him tomorrow at 1 o'clock, and he's going to take us to the spot, and we're going to do some investigating and take a video.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Oh, good deal. Can't wait to hear about it.
Yeah.
I didn't realize you were that close. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So do you want to talk about the other cryptid or the RV life?
No, talk about the other cryptid first, and we'll get to the RV life in a
second. Okay. So the other cryptid is Werewolf Springs. There's a state park nearby in Burns, Tennessee, like just a few miles down the road, maybe 5 miles. Werewolf Springs is in Montgomery Bell State Park, and this is where that circus train wreck in Burns happened in 1860. And for sure, well, I don't know about for sure, the most prevalent folklore story that derived from that was that a pair of half-human, half-wolf creatures that were marketed under the moniker the Wolf Men of Borneo, that they escaped the train wreck, and they definitely were not found before the train took off. So there were some discrepancies as to whether or not other animals were found, but these two definitely were not. And a few years later, some locals were down at Werewolf Springs, and they saw them, and one of them they took off running and split up, and one of them was never seen again. So a mob was joined, and they formed a posse and got their torches and their pitchforks and met at the springs, and they baited it with a goat and extinguished their torches. And they said that the creature appeared, and the whole group opened fire on it, and then they lit their torches, and the clearing was empty. There was no creature, there was no goat, and 2 members of the posse were missing. So that's, and then even still since the 1860s, all throughout even current times, there's still sightings of dogmen and werewolves, multiple, like at one time, not just one at a time, and not just 2, but multiple, like sometimes a pack of them have been seen in that area, which disturbs me because there's a Boy Scout camp down there. They even taped Ernest Goes to Camp down there.
Wow.
But, yeah, there's lots of camping down there and hiking trails, and yeah.
People say that the Dogman scares them more than Bigfoot, but it doesn't me. Bigfoot scares me more than Dogman because Bigfoot is like half human. And that unsettles me because
smarter.
Yeah, they're smarter, and that unsettles me because they are. If Dogman is real, he just seems like a apex predator, like a wolf on steroids. But Bigfoot has. Have you ever heard of the Sasquatch savant theory?
No.
This was put forward by Christopher Noel, and he's got a great YouTube channel called Impossible Visits. He lives up in Vermont, but he reckons that Sasquatch could be autistic, and that's why you have the swaying and the erratic behavior, banging on stuff. And he does a whole video on it, and he's a very intelligent guy, and he does a whole analysis on the similarities between autistic people and Sasquatch behavior. I don't want to diminish autism or anything, but I'm just saying what has been reported. The the repetitive banging on rocks, the swaying, the lack of eye contact, all that kind of stuff. You know?
Yeah, a lot of mannerisms.
Yeah, so it's and that kind of unsettles me. To think that they could have human characteristics like that. And also, the tree structures, they're very methodical, and they'll lay things out in a pattern, and they're just very good in their environment. And I think a savant, one of it, is somebody that's really, really good at one thing or something. I think one of our moderators was telling me about this. And Sasquatch, I mean, when you think about it, it's not that hard to. There was a guy, and my guest was talking about it last week. There's a guy that was stayed hidden. I think it was Maine for 20 years in the woods, and nobody knew he was there. He was like coming up and stealing food off people's property and stuff, and nobody realized that I think he went missing, and he was still alive and just lived in the woods as a wild man.
Wow.
Yeah, so I think that if Sasquatch is as smart as us, I don't think it's that hard to hide, especially even in Massachusetts. It's pretty wild out here. And, people say some of them are 10 or 12 foot tall. I don't really know about that, but I can see 8 foot tall. But when they say they're 10 or 12 feet tall, that's huge. That's twice my height, Yeah. I just can't, I can't fathom something that height being able to stay hidden. But, if an 8 foot creature can stay hidden, I'm sure a 12-foot creature can. I don't know. But anyway, I digress.
Right. Well, that story about the one reaching up for the guy's foot in the tree stand where all he was hunting, it was over 14 feet, supposedly, and it reached up 20 feet. I was like, I've never heard that in my life. That's the highest I've ever heard.
Which one was that?
I was like, I think it was on Sasquatch Chronicles.
Oh, yeah.
I'll find it and send it to you. But, yeah, I was thinking, I've never heard one that tall that could reach 20 feet in the air.
Well, there's some
how high his tree stand was.
There's some questionable guests on there. I mean, I think most of them are pretty, but the lady living with the Bigfoots and they're watching SpongeBob and stuff, I don't know if I can buy that. And he gets attracted to the juvenile female, and he said she's beautiful, and he feels an attraction for her. I'm like, please, it's not Wes's fault if these people aren't telling the truth, but I just find it hard to buy. It's hard enough to buy that there's an 8 foot tall creature living in the woods of North America, but sitting watching SpongeBob,
Exactly.
I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, though.
Oh, I'm not inviting him into my house to watch TV. No way.
No. I mean, do they use the bathroom?
Oh, gosh. Hilarious.
Yeah, there's just too many questions. Like, do they use toilet paper or just a rabbit? Like,
rabbit.
Yeah. But anyway, so to your RV life, so you sold your dream house and now you just live in an RV basically full time.
I do, full time, yes. In 2018, I started living full time, and first I just traveled out west and predominantly 4 states, Colorado, Utah, New Mexico, and Nevada. And then 2019, I spent almost all of it in Yellowstone. Wow. I got there and there was 10 feet of snow, but they had the roads clear. And I lived and worked there. If you work there, you get to stay for pretty cheap. It's all about the adventure. You don't make much money, but
right.
You meet interesting people. There's international students that come to work there. My daughter had just graduated college. So I had empty nest syndrome. So I sold my home and went out there and got to mother those kids. And I had a big navigator that I pulled my trailer with. So I'd load up 8 kids and take them to see the sights because they all flew in and couldn't go to see anything. And then we went on, hikes into the most remote part of the United States in the lower 48, 20-mile hikes, stayed overnight. It was a really, really amazing 8 months.
And no activity during these hikes?
I'm sorry?
No activity during these hikes?
No Sasquatch activity during those hikes, surprisingly, because I know that they're quite active in Yellowstone. But
yeah, I've heard that.
At the time, I wasn't really looking, and I've learned that that's not unusual if you've had a traumatic experience. I just recently started becoming more and more curious again to where I want to be on an expedition.
Yeah.
Because my experience was traumatic. And I learned with our group that that's not unusual. That I've told the story a couple of times, and I've gone hiking and not been afraid, but it's been 40 years. And that's probably why. But I never went hiking right afterwards.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, when you were out with these international students, did you tell them, hey, watch out for Sasquatch, or did you just forget about it?
Oh, yes. We kind of joked about it here and there. I'd say, this place looks squatchy, and I have stickers of Sasquatch and Sasquatch signs and stuff, but it was never on a serious matter,
Yeah.
I didn't really, now that I've joined the group and I'm learning more and taking it seriously and, signing up for an expedition, I'm taking it on a different level.
Yeah.
Whereas the last few years, I didn't at all.
Yeah.
And that may be good because I might have been too scared to do a 20-mile hike in Yellowstone. That might have really held me back.
I'm too scared to do a 2-mile hike by myself in a known active area.
Well, no one should hike less than 3 people, especially in a grizzly area.
Well, yeah, grizzlies I'm terrified of.
Yeah.
I've seen Grizzly Man. You ever see that show?
No.
Yeah, it's a guy, and I think he's in the closet, but he kind of deals with it by going on, I think it's Kodiak Island, somewhere crazy, but it's full of grizzlies, and he goes up there and lives among the grizzlies, and he's very effeminate, and he makes a big documentary. It's called Grizzly Man, and he brings his girl friend up there with him, and he's doing things like, he thinks he's friends with the grizzlies, and he's going up and slapping them on the nose when they're being bad, and he just thinks he's one of them. And then one night a grizzly comes in and just tears them both apart, and they're just living in a tent, and this is all recorded, and now they have the recording of these guys getting ripped to pieces by a grizzly, and this is how the documentary ends. But
oh my goodness!
And there's a recording going around YouTube of this attack, but it's not the original one. The original one, the police destroyed, but somebody made a cop, did a fake one.
Okay, I think that's what I've seen. I didn't realize there was a whole documentary thing.
It's
I
amazing.
I just saw a small Okay.
It's an amazing
documentary. Yeah, I was familiar with the story, but I didn't realize there was a documentary about, or an actual, what you saw.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic. Grizzly Man, check it out.
Oh wow!
So do you want to get into your encounter and what led up to it?
Sure. Yeah. So, like I said, this was a really small town. The whole county actually goes now we have 2 high schools in that county, but at the time we only had one. The entire county went to the same high school. We started in 10th grade. And this was our 10th grade summer, exactly 40 years ago in 1981, the summer of 1981. And there was a McDonald's and a theater and a skating rink and a community pool.
Oh, right.
And so the thing to do, everybody would go to the parking lot of the theater, and We called it Cruising the Plaza, and find out where everybody was going that night. Let's have a bonfire in this field, or let's go ghost busting at this haunted house. And so my friend had gotten a new Jeep that day, and it was a beautiful Jeep that he had custom painted. And he said, let's go four-wheeling. And we were like, cool. So 4 of us loaded up in the Jeep with him. And he said, let's go to Sampson's Woods, which I had heard about all my life, small town folklore about Sampson's Woods, kind of like the White Screamer and Werewolf Springs, except for this cryptid, it was kind of like Bigfoot, and hunters would find animals, small animals, pulled apart, and at high up in the higher than a person can reach, they would find claw marks on the trees and howls and other Bigfoot signs. And so, you know, we were all, let's go to Sampson's Woods, which are very small logging roads that have very big, deep ruts in them. And, you know, I would never even take my 4-wheel drive Navigator back there, but a Jeep I could see you doing very slowly. But there's limbs that were overhanging the road that had briars on them that we would have to hold back to get through. By no means could you go through there quickly. And we'd been down, it was between 8 and 9 o'clock. It was getting dusk in the summer. You know, it gets dark here we're in Central Time, so it gets dark about 9 o'clock, completely dark. And it was almost that time we were riding these back roads, and I started getting suspicious because the guy was like, let me rest my Jeep. And I'm like, why would you rest your Jeep? We never got over 25 miles an hour. And I started, and he's real mischievous anyway. So I was thinking, he's got somebody playing it out here. That's why he wanted to bring us to Sampson's Woods. He's going to get somebody to jump out and scare us. So I'm kind of prepared for this. And at one point, we pulled up at a really ancient graveyard, really small graveyard, and like 100 bats flew at us. And we didn't have the top on the Jeep. So they flew right at our face. Scared us all to death. And I was like, well, he couldn't have planned that. So, and he stopped a couple of other times. And about the third time he stopped, I'm really suspicious by this time. And this time, over to our left is a clearing, and after about 75 feet, and I'm pointing like you can see me, after about 75 feet is big, thick woods that go back a long, long ways. These are, by the way, this area has 2 rivers, the Harpeth River and the Cumberland River, not very far away, and a deer reservation. So a buffet for the Sasquatch. And Cheatham Game Reserve is the name of it. And the woods behind this clearing went on for miles. And so the moon was full that night, and he says, I'm going to rest my Jeep. And I'm sitting there going, yep, this is where it's going to happen. And we had Alabama playing real low, and all of a sudden, the most blood-curdling scream I've ever heard in my entire life, that you could feel in your chest, like a lion's roar, came out of those woods. And the look on his face, it's like, okay, a human can't do that. Even if he had something recorded, I don't know that it would have sounded like that. And the look on his face was pretty darn genuine, that he was freaked out as much as I was. And he turned down the radio, and within a few seconds, this thing jumped out of the woods and made another aggressive with his arms, jumping out of the woods and making the sound again, like as intimidating as he could. He knew we were there. He was letting us know that we were in his territory and we needed to go. His arms were up. Oh gosh, I'm getting the chills. His arms were up, and he let out this roar, and then he cleared that clearing in less than 3 seconds. He was at our Jeep.
He ran towards you.
Ran directly towards a beeline. We were his goal.
How far away was he from you to start with?
About 75 feet, that clearing.
Jesus.
And my friend fumbled. I can't remember if he had turned the Jeep off completely and we were idling, or if he stumbled with the gear shift. If I'm not mistaken, I know we all turned 16 that summer. I think he may have just gotten his driver's license, and it was a stick shift. So I think he stumbled getting it into first because he was freaking out. I think it was idling, but he may have tried to start it. I'm not sure. I think it was first gear he was stumbling. But that allowed that Sasquatch to get within 10 feet. And I remember getting as far as I could from it and curled up in a ball, and we're screaming and crying. There's 3 girls and 2 boys. We're all in 10th grade, 15, 16 years old, screaming and crying, and he takes off, and we can hear the footfalls as this thing is running. You can hear it hit the ground, and it roars again, and it's so close. Now, I thought my ears would bleed. It was so loud. And twice I looked back, and it was within 10, maybe no further than 12 feet. And his hair was blowing back as it was running. And the look on his face, it was like he was determined and he was pissed. And I dove for the floorboard in a fetal position, and I was 100% sure we didn't have a top on the Jeep. I just knew he was going to reach in and pluck me out. I knew it was going to happen. I've never been that scared in my life. And I've been on a shark dive and got lost from the boat, and I was more scared on this time than that time. I've never been that scared. I almost had PTSD from this experience. And my friend took off, and his brand new Jeep with custom paint stripes. We were going so fast, the branches were scratching the side of this Jeep, damaging it, deep scratches. Briars were hitting us. We were going as fast as it was possible, and that thing kept up. There was 2 times I looked up and saw it, that it had chased us, and we finally I guess it knew it chased us off. I think it could have caught us if it wanted to, but we finally got away, and we got back to town, and we were all so traumatized. People were still at that Plaza shopping center, and we were telling everybody about it, and everybody was like, "You guys are really freaking out." We were crying and shaking and still traumatized, and everybody was like, "You guys are really, really freaking out." And they never doubted us because they knew we saw something. And even the next day, we all went to the community pool and told everybody that, and they all decided, these are country boys, that go hunting and fishing every day. They decided they were going to get their shotguns and get some beer and go camp out in this clearing and see if they could take care of it. And of course, with 50 or 60 kids camping out, they never saw or heard a thing. And I don't know. I've not heard that they've had any sightings in the last. I don't know if they've had any. I moved out and went to college and haven't lived in that town since then, so I really don't know of any activity. I couldn't find any when I researched, but a lot of people don't share their stories, so I don't know. It's not documented as well as the Werewolf Springs and the White Screamer, but I was traumatized for years over it. It was really scary. And even the girls that I speak to, when I see them at the class reunions, we still talk about it.
Now, why do you think this thing was so mad? Because it's not, you were just driving through. It's not like you were hunting or taking away their food or something.
Yeah, and even the radio was low. We weren't even blasting the radio. So I think that he just wanted to scare us out of his territory is the only thing I can think of.
There must have been babies around.
We may have been laughing loud.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
There must have been babies around or something.
Right. And I think maybe with it being 5 teenagers, 5 people, maybe that had something to do with it. But we probably, and also because we'd been riding around that area for probably an hour, he was done with us. He's like, y'all's been here long enough. I'm not sure. I'm speculating. I've thought about it though. I think he just wanted us out of his area. We'd been there long enough.
Maybe you were scaring the young or something. They were all confused and afraid.
I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah. There might have been a whole clan of them back there, and the babies were getting woken up and, freaking out and something like that. I don't know.
Right. Spinning mud and stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Scaring them.
Or he might have just been looking at you and like, God, I wish I was human and a teenager. Not some like Beauty and the Beast character, and they're smart.
Right.
They're probably smart enough to think like that. They're an abomination, really, to most people, and they probably are smart enough to know that, and they know that they scare us, and they know that they probably just hate us. A lot of them probably just hate us and hate what we are because we're. I don't know. It's hard,
especially with the hunters. Coming out there and blasting their guns.
Yeah. But with the hunters, they probably stay the hell out of the way. But with 5 teenagers, they're probably like, you're easy to scare out of the place, with your big iron horse and stuff going through the woods. I don't know. It's anybody's guess. Anything's open to to speculation in this subject. I don't know.
Right. Another weird thing that I didn't think about until years later was we never smelled it, and I don't know if it's because he was running behind us, or maybe he was downwind, or I joked, there's 2 rivers. Maybe he based that day, but we never smelled anything. I asked the other ones, and they said they didn't. So I just found that weird. Most people, say it almost knocks them down.
Yeah, like a skunk.
He must have been downwind. I'm sorry?
Like a skunk. When we smell a skunk, you can smell, if there's a skunk in my town, you'll smell it all over town. Right, even if it's downwind. Yeah. Like if you drive past a skunk roadkill, it'll get into your car. Like I remember one night, my dog chased after one, and he got sprayed by a skunk, and my wife took him into the house, and the smell was, she was taking care of him. I was in bed trying to sleep because she had taken him out for the last piss of the night, and he came back into the house, and I heard all the commotion, and like, what's happened? And she's like, oh, he got sprayed by a skunk. Idiot went chasing after one. And I was in the next room with the door closed, and the smell was so bad, I got under the covers because I couldn't take the smell. So maybe that's how we smell to them also, They can probably...
that's a good...
Yeah, and that's why I think that most sightings are road crossings, because they can't smell us and they can't see us coming. They have no warning, and all of a sudden here we are in this vehicle, and they're caught, unaware.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I've read a story that just a few days ago about somebody drove past and the light shined right on it and it never looked at them. And I'm like, I wonder if it's a learned behavior not to look at the headlights because he knows they'll hurt his eyes or blind, be temporarily blinding, or if it wasn't trying to make eye contact, so it was trying to stay hidden. I wonder what was behind that.
Huh. So, do you want to? Well, you already talked about how it looked.
Yeah. Well, just that. Well, I didn't really talk about how the face looked. It had long hair, like a woman's hair, probably a little past the shoulder, and further up the head on the top, it seemed shorter, and a dome on the top, and the beard was probably around 5 inches long. The only place it didn't have hair was the eyes. It had and the nose. It had a human nose, but it was big and wider. And you could see, and its lips was not hairy. And the width of its shoulders is what I thought about for days, just how wide it was and how bulky it was. And when it ran, the way the muscles reacted, that I saw that flash back at me for several days. That was like a traumatic thing. Those 2 times that I looked back from the back of the Jeep when it was running, I saw that in my head for several days.
Because those are things that, it's like Carrie Arnold's encounter. We talked about this before, where he was hunting and he was half a mile in his hunting property. He'd been leasing the place for 7 years, and he had heard stuff, and there's a lot of things happened, but he didn't really register. And then one day he encountered one 100 feet from him, and this thing looked like he said it had a kabuki mask looking face, and he had the body of that Sasquatch you see sometimes in the water that's said to be a hoax, but he said that's what it looked like. Yeah. And it was 8 foot tall. And he said that he didn't really believe in Bigfoot, but he's like, holy shit, this is what people are seeing in the woods. This is in South Tennessee. And the thing started to make these unnatural noises, and he was shocked, and he couldn't move. The blood just ran from his face, and he was half a mile from he had a shotgun, but it was like turkey shot, and he was like, this thing's going to have to get close to me before I can do anything. But even being in that situation, so I think it's the PTSD probably comes from just seeing something that's not supposed to exist.
Yeah, and thinking that for me it was, I just knew he was going to pluck me out of the back seat. I just knew it. I was waiting for it to happen. I just felt like I was the buffet for him.
Right.
And he had a look of determination on his face when he was running for the Jeep. It's funny now that it wasn't at the time.
Now, the strange thing about that is, though, and I talked to a researcher down in Oklahoma, and he's involved in, I think it's FEMA, something along those lines. And I asked them, why there aren't more attacks or something along those lines. And he's like, because if a Bigfoot attacks somebody, especially a child or something, there's going to be men with guns, helicopters, and they probably know that. So I'm surprised that to think that it would have actually taken one of you, because that's a whole lot of trouble for a Bigfoot. Because you'll have...
That's a good point.
Yeah, you'll have men come in those woods, and I'm sure they can escape, but if they've got family there and stuff,
Yeah.
And they're in a sweet spot that they want to protect. I mean, they probably don't want to move, so they probably don't want to cause trouble. So I'm surprised that it would have come out and caused trouble like that. It had to be.
Right.
It had to have been protecting something.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're right. I never thought about it like that because, I think he was just chasing us out.
Could have been.
Because if he had taken someone, it would be an invasion of people looking for the missing person.
Yeah.
Yeah, they seem smart enough to know that. You're right.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, they watch planes going overhead and hear helicopters, and I mean, they've been here for so long. They've probably watched people on battlefields in the Civil War, and they know what humans can do. So that's why they stay hidden.
Right. Right.
So after that, I mean, you said that you didn't get any ridicule or something because there was so many people with you.
Right. Yeah, there were 5 of us together, and there were so many people that witnessed this right after the occurrence and saw our genuine trauma right afterwards. They never doubted that we saw something. Even if they didn't believe in Bigfoot, they never doubted that we believed we saw Bigfoot.
Yeah.
And so in my hometown, I never had to deal with, I guess, doubt or credibility issue, which was wonderful. And the few times I've shared it outside, you do get some looks here and there. But for the most part, I've been fortunate in that. Because I had so many others with me. No one ever doubted us.
Now, I love this story you told earlier about the house that you just sold. You had an experience there. Do you want to talk about that? I love that story.
Sure. So, the house I built, a year or more after we built it, I was walking the woods and found this old tombstone that looked like it had some hand-carved name or dates on it, but it was so old you couldn't even read anything from it. And it disturbed me greatly that we may have disturbed a grave. It was 3 acres, so we weren't sure where to start, and it was hundreds of years old. So my daughter and her boyfriend at the time, they're married now, but they would say that they felt like someone was looking at them from the front porch. The first 2.5 floors were all windows, and they said sometimes even from 28 feet in the air, it felt like somebody was looking at them from outside. That we felt, and down in the basement, they felt weird. And sometimes things would come on downstairs. But I would often say, look, I spent 6 years looking for this land. I went through 6 years of planning commission and zoning review board to get this building permit. I've got a lot of blood, sweat, and tears invested in this house. Please don't run me out. I don't want to see any ghosts. I would make that, say that out loud so the ghosts don't appear before me. Don't chase me out. And after years, actually, we lived there 14 years, and towards the end there, one day, we had a carbon monoxide detector that we thought the battery went out, so we took the batteries out. It still kept chirping. We pulled some wires loose, and it still kept chirping. Beat it with a hammer, and it still kept chirping. So my son-in-law took it and threw it at the bottom of the stairs down to the basement. And when he turned around, all the blood left his face, and he had this look of literally like he'd seen a ghost. And I said, what? And he said, somebody just looked around the corner of the stairs up at me, and she looked like a witch, but I could see through her like she was a ghost. Okay, so he opened the door, and the carbon monoxide detector was on the top stair.
Whoa.
So he threw it down to the bottom of the stairs and locked the door, and we sat back down. And 5 minutes later, we hear it getting louder again. And he opens the door, and it's on the top stair again. This happened 5 times until finally he just took it and threw it out the back door into the backwoods. And we sold the house shortly after that.
That's nuts.
Yeah. I would have, at first I thought maybe he was messing with me when he said that he saw that thing, but after I witnessed him throwing it down the basement and then witnessed him picking it up off the top step. So 5 different times. That was just crazy. And I definitely heard it getting louder every time. So, yeah.
Did you ever go down in the basement again?
Not at night. And I would do it like during the day, but that's it.
Yeah, that's freaky.
Not at night.
That's freaky. There's no explanation for that.
I know. Yeah, there was supposedly an old man that lived there years ago that had a still in a distill. I don't know, what is it, a whiskey still in the backwoods, and he was supposedly a bitter old man, and his house burned. I don't know if he died in the house, but that was people's theory as to who was haunting it. I don't know. But that old tombstone may have had something to do with it. I don't know. I'm glad I sold it because I can't live in a haunted house.
Yeah, now you're just in a can opener for a Bigfoot.
Right. Yeah, waiting to get it the sides peeled back like a can opener. That is, and now I'm going to Oregon where it is very, very squatchy.
Yeah,
my next stop.
Are you going to do any squatching yourself or not by yourself?
Not by myself, no. I would never be that brave. But I might if I can get together with other people and somebody's packing.
Yeah, maybe find somebody in the area and head out with them, establish a local group. It's taken me a while, but I've found a couple of guys to go out with, and now I'll be brave and I'll go into the deep woods and off the trail and look for big footprints, but by myself, I'm just, I usually carry a 9mm around, but, that's just false protection, I'm not.
And for the record, I would never, ever use it unless it was me or him.
Right, like any animal. Yeah, I mean.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah, and the first time I talked about a website or YouTube channel that everybody should check out, and it covers a lot of 411 cases, but this guy's like an ex-Navy SEAL, and he covers a lot of paranormal cases and 411. It's a YouTube channel called Mr. Ballen, MrBallen. It's got like almost 2 million subscribers, and it's excellent. He just tells stories, and he's very good at it. You should check that channel out, and you should check out Bigfoot Odyssey too. It's hopefully I'm going to be on there pretty soon. It's one of the better channels on YouTube. Yeah, after I do my expedition in Oklahoma, we might go on there and tell our story, because I think that we're going to have some kind of activity this time.
That is so exciting. I can't wait to hear. And this time, film yourself some in the movie. We want to see you too.
I'm just so old and decrepit looking these days.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, the GoPro's on my head most of the time,
Right.
So I don't.
Yeah.
I don't like to shoot.
Otherwise, you stumble in the woods, especially at night.
Yeah.
If you're trying to look through the viewfinder.
Well, that's what happened to me. Plus, there's like spiders, webs, and stuff, and I hate spiders. So I'm looking for everything. I'm like trying to talk. I'm like watching my footing because there's like cottonmouths and there's like spiders across the trail. So I'm like watching everything. So I'd rather have it on my head where I'm not like totally distracted. Plus, I'm looking out for Squatch.
Gotcha. Well, put one on the other guy's head, pointing at you.
Oh, Dave. I know. It's going to be fun, but we're going to go to Mark's property from Livewire, and he had a year of activity on his property, and we're going to camp in the middle of the woods outside of his house, where they definitely are, Whether or not they'll come up and bother us, but they're definitely there. He's got lots of video evidence.
Yeah, that was a lot of activity and consistent activity. So I'm excited to hear what you guys encounter.
Are you familiar with his channel?
Well, you sent me that link, and wow.
Oh, the documentary on Bigfoot Odyssey, yeah. And you saw that shadow crossing his flashlight, and it's just like a typical Bigfoot skulking by the that I know this guy, and he's just he doesn't want anything to do with Bigfoot, but he and when he moved, like, he still hasn't closed on the property, but when he moved, he's on a Facebook page for the local area, and shortly after he left, there's a trailer park nearby, and this family with kids were complaining that they were having Sasquatch activity. And he's like, God damn it. They'd left his property because the kids were gone. And they went to another property because they're very interested in kids. I don't know why, neither is he, but that's why he moved. Because he's like, I can't sacrifice my kids. I've got to watch them every time they walk out. When he went out at night to do anything, he carried like weapons because he was afraid. So.
Yeah.
And when the cops came to interview him at the very start, the cop came and he has it on video. The cop's like, they usually migrate at this time of year. And he's like, what? These things are real? And the cop was like, basically, yeah. So they sell tree knockers in the gas stations down there.
I remember you saying that.
Yeah.
That blows my mind how, it just must be so accepted there in that town because it's so prevalent, I guess.
Yeah, up here it's just like not really even heard of, but there is activity up here, and I know there is, and there's about maybe 30 reports around Massachusetts, but I know that there's hundreds more because I've spoken to people that have had encounters, and they're not in the BFRO website. And that's only people I've spoken to. And that's only people that have come forward. So you just do the math.
There's so many people that witness it but don't even know about the BFRO, that they even exist, who to call to report it. And then there's those that don't want to be ridiculed if they do. So I'm sure there's a very small fraction of actual reports.
Or there's people
of actual sightings that get reported.
Well, there's people that see it also and just, pass it off as something else.
Yeah.
So there's probably 1% of people that come forward. So.
Indeed.
That's what I'm thinking. Well, Cathy, I'm glad we did it this time.
Yeah. I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah. It was fun, and let me know of your adventures, and come on again sometime if you're up in Oregon and you come across something.
I certainly will. I'd love to.
Yeah,
and I can't wait to hear about your Oklahoma adventure.
Oh yeah, it's in 3 weeks. It came up really quickly because Mark's saying, "Hey, I'm closing in April. Let's do one last hurrah, and we'll go down there." And there's like 4 of us going down there and sleeping in tents in the middle of the woods. I'll need some heavy sleep medication. If I can't. Well, you should really stay up all night, but I need my sleep.
Right. Well, I think if you can stay up till 2 or 3, I think that's the best time.
Yeah, I know. God, I'm just so sketched out by them. I know. I wake up early. That's the problem.
And then tomorrow you're going to?
I'm going to that spot that the hunter was bluff charged with the son a lot of years back, and he's going to meet a few of us. I've gathered a little motley crew, and we're going to head out there and just through the podcast, because I keep asking on the podcast if there's anybody out there that's local, please get in contact with me, because I want to go out there with other people, because I don't feel comfortable going too deep by myself.
No.
Plus, it's more fun with other people, you know?
Sure.
So.
Good deal. Well, I'm excited to hear about those.
Yeah, I'll have that video up probably tomorrow night.
Great. Well, thanks so much for having me. I appreciate that. I enjoyed it thoroughly.
Okay, Cathy, thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you. Have a good one.
All right, bye now.
Bye-bye.